All right, let's dive into something that might feel a bit too close to home for anyone who's ever worked in communications.
Oh, this is going to be good.
We're going deep on a blog post called 10 Things That Really Annoy Communication Professionals. And I'm telling you, this French communications pro did not hold back.
Yeah, the French are known for their directness, shall we say.
They don't sugarcoat it. It's funny, it's relatable. It's basically group therapy for anyone who's ever dealt with, well, clients.
Or creatives, or deadlines. Anyone who's ever tried to get a message out there, really.
Exactly. And this blog post nails all those little things that make you want to scream into a pillow. Like, oh, I don't know, the dreaded just one small change request.
Ugh, tell me about it. Famous last words, right?
I swear, those 4 words have single-handedly derailed more projects than I can count.
You think you're on solid ground, the finish line's in sight, and then bam,
Yeah.
you're sucked into a vortex of revisions and redos.
It's like quicksand. And this blog has the perfect example. Imagine you've spent weeks, maybe months, crafting a campaign around a killer tagline. You've got the visuals, the messaging, everything's perfect. Then, the day before launch, the client decides they want to completely change the angle.
It's like watching a slow-motion train wreck, and you're tied to the tracks.
Right. Your masterpiece crumbles before your eyes. It's not just the stress, the all-nighters.
Oh, it's way more than that. It's the compromise on quality, for one. When you're rushing, you're not doing your best work.
And that impacts your reputation, the client's results.
Yeah.
The whole shebang.
And let's not forget the psychological impact. As communicators, we pour ourselves into our work. So when a project gets derailed by last-minute changes,
It feels personal.
it is personal. It's a blow to your creativity, professionalism. It's important to acknowledge that.
Absolutely. And to have some coping mechanisms in place because it will happen again. So what does the blog suggest for dealing with this small change monster?
Well, unsurprisingly, it all comes down to setting clear expectations up front.
So we're talking detailed contracts, right?
Absolutely. And clearly defined scopes of work. A strict validation process with set deadlines for changes. That's key.
No more wiggle room.
Exactly. It's not about being inflexible. It's about protecting your time, your sanity, and the quality of the work.
And ultimately the client's results as well.
Right. It's a win-win for everyone involved.
Okay, on to another gem from this list that always makes me laugh, the make it go viral demand.
Oh, the holy grail of marketing. Right.
You know, as if virality is just something you sprinkle on like glitter.
If only. Look, the reality is viral success is impossible to predict, let alone manufacture. There's timing, content quality, emotional resonance, and then a giant heaping helping of luck.
So much luck. And yet so many clients seem to think it's as simple as hitting a go viral button. This blog's example is perfect. A client wants a viral video for their, wait for it, toilet paper.
Oh, come on, you're kidding.
I am not toilet paper.
Not every product is destined for viral fame, and that's okay. Forcing it can actually backfire.
I've seen brands try so hard to be trendy, and it just ends up feeling, well, inauthentic and kind of cringy.
Totally. So the blog's advice: educate your clients about the reality of viral marketing. Explain the complexities, the uncertainties.
The luck factor.
Yes. Shift the focus from vanity metrics to realistic, measurable goals that actually align with their business objectives.
Okay, next up is a personal favorite, and I bet it'll resonate with you too. It's the "my nephew can do that" syndrome.
Yeah.
You know, when someone undermines your years of experience and specialized skills.
Comparing you to a teenager with a smartphone, oh, I know it well.
The blog's example: my 15-year-old nephew makes awesome TikToks. Surely he can handle our entire social media strategy. As if creating engaging content is just pointing a phone and dancing.
Right. It's that underlying assumption that communication is easy, that anyone can do it.
Which is so not true. I mean, there's a reason we have entire degree programs dedicated to this. It's a complex field.
And this is where we need to do a better job advocating for our value, showcasing our experience, our skills, the results we've achieved.
The blog suggests using your portfolio as evidence. Don't be afraid to talk about your process, your strategy.
Show them the thought that goes into everything. It's about educating clients, helping them understand that communication is an investment, not an expense.
Okay, let's tackle another one. Impossible deadlines. When clients act like communication can just be whipped up in a few hours.
It's like they think we have magic wands in our desks, or an army of elves working around the clock.
The blog's example: we have a press conference in 3 days. We need a full presentation deck, a media kit, A&D, a video.
Talk about a recipe for a panic attack.
The pressure is immense, and it almost always leads to rushed work and burnout.
And you know what's really interesting? Research has shown that working under intense pressure actually decreases creativity. So by imposing these crazy deadlines, clients are actually shooting themselves in the foot.
Right, they're hindering their own success. So what's the solution?
Well, the blog says it's all about setting realistic expectations from the start. A clear project timeline, potential roadblocks factored in.
And don't be afraid to push back when a deadline is truly unreasonable.
Exactly. It's better to have an honest conversation up front than to deliver subpar work and damage your reputation.
Now, for a conundrum I'm sure we've all faced. We want something creative, but not too creative.
Ah, the creative tightrope walk. Fun times.
It's like being asked to cook a meal that's both familiar and groundbreaking at the same time.
And sometimes those comfort zones are TINY.
The blog puts it perfectly. We want to stand out, but stay within industry norms. Innovative, but not too different.
It's enough to make your head spin.
So how do we navigate this minefield?
The blog suggests presenting multiple options with varying levels of creativity. Give them a spectrum to choose from.
Ah, so they can see what too creative actually looks like. I like it.
It's a collaborative approach.
Yeah.
The client feels involved, and you get the space to explore different possibilities.
All right, on to a truly frustrating experience, the disappearing client. You know, the one who vanishes just when you need their input the most?
It's like they go into hibernation, completely oblivious to the project deadlines ticking away.
Then they suddenly reappear, demanding results yesterday. The blog's example. Radio silence for weeks on a design mock-up. Then suddenly, we're launching tomorrow. Is it ready?
Oh, I can feel my blood pressure rising just thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's so stressful. Not to mention, it completely disrupts your workflow.
Right. So how do we avoid this ghosting situation?
Clear schedules with specific deadlines for feedback and approvals.
And don't be afraid to send those gentle reminder emails.
Right? Absolutely. Keep the lines of communication open. Make it clear that their input is crucial to the project's success.
And to sticking to that timeline.
Right. It's all about proactive communication. And you know what? Clients actually tend to be more satisfied when they feel involved throughout the process.
So it benefits everyone in the end.
Exactly.
Okay, this next one is sneaky. It's the seemingly harmless, can you just request.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. Those tiny requests that turn into massive undertakings.
They seem so small, but trust me, they can derail an entire project.
It's like a snowball rolling downhill.
Yeah.
It starts small, then suddenly it's an avalanche of revisions and budget overruns.
The blog gives a perfect example. Can you just add one more logo to the website and maybe change the background color? Oh, and while you're at it, can you tweak the font a little?
And just like that, you're redesigning the entire website.
Right. So how do we prevent these can you just moments from turning into major headaches?
Boundaries, my friend. Clear boundaries from the get-go.
So define the project scope very specifically.
Yes, and have a clear pricing structure for any additional requests.
So everyone understands what those small changes actually cost.
Exactly. It protects your time, your resources, and prevents those awkward conversations later on.
All right, are you ready for this one? The font wars. When choosing a typeface becomes a battle of epic proportions.
Ooh, I've witnessed some heated debates over serifs and sans serifs in my time.
People get passionate about their fonts.
It's a window into their design sensibilities, I guess.
The blog scenario. Weeks of back and forth over Arial versus Helvetica, only to end up with Times New Roman.
The ultimate betrayal.
Right. Talk about anticlimactic.
But seriously, font choice does matter. Different fonts convey different messages, different emotions.
So it's more than just aesthetics.
Absolutely. It can impact brand perception, readability, even consumer behavior. There's a whole psychology to it.
So how do we navigate these font wars?
Educate. Prepare a presentation. Show examples. Help clients understand the power of typography.
Move beyond personal preference and make it about strategic decision-making.
Exactly.
Okay, on to another common misconception. The we need to be on every social media platform mentality.
Because quantity equals quality, right?
Wrong. The blog gives an example of a B2B company insisting on a TikTok account because it's trendy, even though their audience is on LinkedIn.
It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
So what's the better approach?
Targeted analysis. Figure out which platforms are actually relevant to their goals and audience. Show them the data.
Prove it with numbers.
Exactly. It's about having a strong presence on a few key platforms, rather than spreading yourself too thin.
Quality over quantity.
Always.
And finally, we reach the bane of many a communicator's existence, committee syndrome.
When too many cooks spoil the broth, or the press release, or the website copy.
It's death by 1,000 edits.
Everyone feels the need to weigh in, and the message gets diluted into this Frankensteinian mess.
The blog paints a familiar picture. A press release that goes through 15 rounds of revisions, ending up completely incoherent.
It's not just frustrating, it's also incredibly inefficient.
So how do we tame this beast?
A clear approval process with a limited number of stakeholders. Streamline decision-making, make sure the final product is cohesive.
Less is more when it comes to approvers.
Absolutely.
Oh.
And research backs this up. Teams with clear roles and responsibilities are much more effective.
Well, there you have it. 10 things that make communication professionals want to tear their hair out.
But hey, at least we can laugh about it, right?
Right. Misery loves company.
Exactly. Finding humor in these shared experiences is essential.
It's how we stay sane. Plus, it's a good reminder that we're not alone in this.
Every communicator has been there, trust me.
Exactly. But, even with all the challenges, there's something so rewarding about this work.
Oh, absolutely. Helping clients tell their stories, connect with audiences, achieve their goals.
It's what keeps us coming back for more.
It's a roller coaster, that's for sure.
What a fun one, right? So have any of these annoyances resonated with you so far? How do you handle them? We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Because, let's be real, we could all use a few more tips and tricks up our sleeves, right?
Absolutely. And, even though we've been having a bit of fun with these client behaviors, it's important to remember that good communication is a two-way street.
Oh, for sure. Sometimes those frustrations come from a lack of understanding on both sides. Clients might not get the complexities of our work.
And we don't always fully understand their needs or constraints.
It's about bridging that gap and building a stronger partnership.
Yeah.
Hopefully with fewer "my nephew can do that" comments along the way.
I'd say so, because ultimately we all want the same thing, right? Effective communication that achieves those goals.
And that happens when we work together, collaboratively and transparently.
Well said. This blog post has been a hilarious reminder that while our work is rewarding, it definitely comes with its fair share of facepalm moments.
But hey, that's what makes it interesting, right?
Right. Every project is a new challenge, a new opportunity to learn.
And to flex those diplomacy muscles.
Seriously, though, big shout out to all the communication professionals out there navigating these tricky waters.
We are the real MVPs.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this first part. We've explored the frustrations of last-minute changes, the myth of instant virality.
The "my nephew" syndrome, impossible deadlines, the disappearing clients,
Oh, and who could forget the font wars?
and the dreaded committee syndrome.
It's a lot to process.
It is. But remember, for every frustrating client, there's one who values your expertise. For every project that makes you want to scream, there's one that fills you with pride.
So true. And in the next part of our deep dive, we'll be shifting gears and exploring strategies for navigating these challenges. We'll delve into setting boundaries, communicating effectively.
And finding ways to maintain your sanity.
Stay tuned.
You know, it's funny, isn't it? All those annoyances we talked about, they're like universal truths of the communication world.
Right. It doesn't matter where you work, you're bound to run into them.
It's like a secret handshake.
Yeah.
Only communication pros really get it.
Exactly. But as much as we love to commiserate, we also need to find ways to deal with them.
Oh, absolutely. So let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about some strategies for dealing with these everyday annoyances, maybe even turning them into opportunities for growth.
Ooh, I like that. Lemonade out of lemons. Where do we even start?
Well, for me, it all begins with boundaries. And I don't just mean contractual boundaries, although those are important too.
Right.
I'm talking about boundaries with your time, your energy, your creative process.
That makes a lot of sense. It's easy to get swept up in client demands, deadlines, and completely lose sight of your own needs.
Exactly. You have to establish clear expectations from the start. What are your working hours? How do you prefer to receive feedback? What are your non-negotiables when it comes to quality?
And communicate those clearly and consistently.
Absolutely. It's not just about preventing burnout. It's also about making sure you can do your best work.
Right. Because when you're stressed and overwhelmed, forget about creativity.
Exactly. And you know, it's interesting. Studies show that people who set clear boundaries are actually more productive and more creative.
Okay. Boundaries are key. Got it. But what about when a client keeps pushing those boundaries? Making those "can you just" requests that snowball into massive projects?
Ah, yes. That's where clear, assertive communication comes in. It's about learning to say no, gracefully but firmly when you need to.
It's not always easy, though.
It's not. But it gets easier with practice. And you have to explain your reasoning. Offer alternative solutions.
It's funny, sometimes saying no can actually make the client relationship stronger.
Oh, definitely. It shows you're confident, you value your expertise, you're committed to delivering quality.
It's about being a partner, not a pushover.
Exactly. And studies show that clients respect professionals who stand up for their work. It shows you're not just in it for the paycheck.
Okay, I love that. Boundaries, communication, check and check. But what about when a client just doesn't get it? The whole, my nephew can do that thing.
Yeah, the undervaluing of expertise. It's a tough one, but I think it comes down to education and advocacy.
Yeah.
We have to get better at explaining our value.
So showcasing our skills and experience in a way that clicks with clients.
Exactly. We need to translate our expertise into results, demonstrate the ROI of hiring a professional.
So case studies, testimonials, data-driven reports,
All of that. We need to be our own PR agents, in a way.
tooting our own horns a little bit.
Yeah.
Making sure the client sees the entire orchestra playing behind the scenes.
Yes, and it's not bragging. It's about being confident and articulating your value.
Love it. Okay, we've talked boundaries, communication, advocating for ourselves. But what about those inherently stressful situations, like insane deadlines or navigating those approval committees? How do we keep our sanity amidst all that?
You've got to have your coping mechanisms in place.
Yeah.
Stress management, mindfulness,
Yeah.
a supportive group of colleagues you can vent to.
Self-care, right. It's not a luxury.
It's a necessity. You can't pour from an empty cup, as they say.
Couldn't agree more. And studies show that people who prioritize self-care are more productive and resilient when things get tough.
It's true. It's all about finding that balance.
Okay, but I have to admit, sometimes it's hard to stay positive. When you're dealing with never-ending revisions, vague instructions, disappearing clients, it can feel like a losing battle.
It can. It's important to acknowledge those feelings. Don't bottle it up. Talk to a colleague. Take a break.
Right.
But we also need to reframe those challenges. See them as opportunities to grow.
I love that. Learning experiences instead of setbacks.
Exactly. And you know what? People who view challenges as opportunities for growth are actually happier and more successful.
Okay, I'm feeling a little more optimistic. But let's be real, we can do all the right things, but some clients are just difficult, no matter what.
It's true. You can't please everyone, and some relationships are just not meant to be.
So what do we do?
You always have a choice. Walk away from the toxic situations. Focus on clients who value you. Build a career that aligns with your values.
That's empowering. We have agency. We're not just victims of client whims.
Exactly. And research shows that people who feel in control of their work are more satisfied and less stressed.
So it's about finding the right clients, but also the right mindset, the right approach.
It's about finding that sweet spot between being assertive, being flexible, professional and authentic, passionate and pragmatic.
That's a lot to juggle.
It is. And it's a journey. But when you find that balance, it's incredibly rewarding.
Well said. I think we've covered so much ground today. Setting boundaries, communication, advocating for ourselves, self-care, reframing challenges, choosing our battles.
It's a lot, but I hope it's helpful.
Me too. And you know, it really comes down to finding that sweet spot.
Absolutely. And research even shows that people who find that balance are more likely to be successful and fulfilled.
That's what we all want, right?
Right. It's funny, isn't it? We spend so much time talking about what annoys us in our jobs.
It's kind of therapeutic though, right? To vent a little, realize we're not alone.
Oh, definitely. Misery loves company, they say.
Yeah.
But we can't dwell on the negative forever, right?
Right. There's a reason we chose this crazy field.
Yeah. At its core, communication is about connection, bridging gaps, understanding, creating something meaningful.
It's easy to forget that in the day-to-day grind, but that's what keeps us coming back, right?
Absolutely. And, there's research showing that people who find meaning in their work are more satisfied, more resilient, more successful even.
That makes sense. So how do we hold on to that sense of purpose, especially when things get tough?
Well, I think it starts with remembering why we got into this in the first place.
Yeah.
What sparked that initial passion?
Going back to our roots.
Yeah. Was it storytelling? The thrill of connecting with an audience? Wanting to make a difference?
Once you tap into that, it's easier to filter out the noise, focus on what really matters.
Like having a compass to guide you through the storm.
Love that analogy. And it makes me think about how important it is to have good people around you. Colleagues, mentors, friends who inspire you.
Oh, absolutely. That support system is essential. It's like having a cheerleading squad in your corner, reminding you you're not alone.
And celebrating the wins, big and small.
And studies show that strong social connections make people happier and healthier. They can handle stress better.
So it's not just about the right clients or projects, it's about the right people, building that support network.
It's like creating a little ecosystem of positivity and creativity.
Okay, so we've got purpose, good people around us. What else helps us navigate this crazy world?
Well, I think it's also about cultivating a growth mindset.
You mean like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger?
Exactly. But in our case, it's what doesn't kill you makes you a better communicator.
I like that.
Every project, every client, every challenge, it's all a chance to learn.
So we need to see setbacks not as failures, but as stepping stones.
Right. And research shows people with that growth mindset are more likely to achieve their goals. They're more persistent, more resilient.
They're not afraid of feedback either.
They embrace it. It's all about that constant learning and improvement.
So purpose, positive people, growth mindset. Any other parting words of wisdom before we wrap up?
It really comes down to this. Finding joy in the journey. There will be challenges, frustrations, but also moments of pure brilliance. Creativity, connection,
It's about savoring those wins, remembering why we chose this path.
and finding that spark that keeps you going, the one that
Love it.
makes it all worth it.
It's that passion that makes all the difference.
It's what turns a job into a calling.
Beautifully said. Well, I think we've really dived deep into the world of communication professionals today. We've explored the frustrations, the challenges, the things that make us want to pull our hair out. But we've also talked about how to navigate it all, how to find meaning and joy in our work.
And I hope it's been helpful.
I think so. And as we wrap up, I just want to say thank you to all the communicators out there. You're the storytellers, the connectors, the bridge builders.
You make the world a more communicative, more engaging, and hopefully a slightly less frustrating place.
So keep creating, keep connecting, and keep finding joy in the journey. The world needs your voice.
More than ever.